Hi, gang. Oh, glory. What a weekend. What an absolute weekend. Um I don't want to focus too much on the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It is tragic. It is incredibly tragic that we are in this sort of wild perfect storm. I was going to post actually a status saying, so I guess Trump won the battle and the war. Um, and that's defeatist. I don't want us to feel defeated. There are ways to combat this. It's to vote. We have to exercise our right as American citizens to get out and, vote. To the people that are out there that have not yet registered or that are not registered, what the fuck are you waiting for? Get out, please, and vote. Find out if you can do early voting. Find out if you can do mail-in voting. But don't call it absentee voting because that will piss off the Cheeto. And we don't want that, no, do we, darlings? Um, but outside of that, this episode, I definitely want to focus on victim mentality. Now, to those unaware, victim mentality is the act of essentially feeling like you are the victim of your own story. Like, poor me, woe is me, why does everything always happen to me? And it's very toxic. It's incredibly toxic, especially when you surround yourself with people that constantly are trying to say it's okay, it's all right, constantly trying to comfort somebody. If a person has victim mentality, they don't want to hear, "Oh, everything's going to be all right." No, they want to be justified in their in their mentality. They want to be told, "No, you're right. Everything does happen to you." um no, these one of the reasons why I started doing this show again was to basically talk about like issues that are plaguing the communities that I'm a part of and that I have seen physically within the realm of those communities with which I'm a part of. Cosplay, drag, theater, voiceover, all that jazz and juice. And it's always interesting when you come across new and different people who have new and different ways of thinking. But what I've noticed a lot of, specifically in the cosplay community, because I mean, yes, that is the community that I've been a part of for many a year. Narcissism is huge. And because narcissism is huge, there are a lot of people out there that will feel that they are entitled. And when they don't get their way, like narcissism coupled with victim mentality is just no, absolutely not. There's there's different ways to look at victim mentality, and you try as a friend to another, you try and basically say, no, not everything is your fault, everything is fine, no need to worry. But people don't listen, and that's in terms of ways to fix the stupid. And in terms of ways to, educate oneself, people need to be able to listen and listen critically. Um, Myself personally, because I do love talking about myself, I do have some narcissistic tendencies, but I'm also very much understanding of who I am as a human being. I have made an awful amount of mess ups in my life. I own that. I own every last one of my muck ups. From saying the wrong things to friends of mine, to doing the wrong thing at a convention, to just things that I have done that I'm not okay with. But I don't blame myself and I don't blame others. I own my muck ups. I own them. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people in the cosplay community don't do. I feel like a lot of people just choose to ignore. choose to ignore their mental health and just basically say, "Oh, not my fault. Not my fault. I accept no blame. Not my fault." Do you have any idea how toxic that is? Do you have any idea how unfortunate that sort of mentality is? And please forgive the ensemble. Um, I literally was watching. I was in the middle of watching Maud, which I do, as one does, and I was in my robe, and I'm like, it's 7:30. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's 8 o'clock. I have a show to do in a half an hour. So I decided to just throw on my robe and throw caution to the wind. Um, but no, there is clearly a pattern that I'm noticing within the cosplay community when it comes to these types of people that will say, "Woe is me, poor me." Stop looking for sympathy and figure shit out for yourself. Therapy is fabulous. Therapy is wonderful. I am such an advocate for therapy. I am such an advocate for people's mental health. It is so important to check in on yourself and to, if you don't want to check in on yourself, ask questions to friends of yours saying, "Hey, am I totally like having this moment right now?" And they'll be honest with you, as long as you're honest and respectful of them. Caitlin says, "I realized my problem's too late, but I work on my disorder every day now. But yes, people do not fix themselves first. I thank gods for therapy." And it's true. Therapy is really one of those beautiful things where you have a conversation with someone who is a trained professional and can, have those sort of conversations with you. You can't rely on your friends as therapy. You can contact and communicate with your friends, absolutely. That is, I am in no way, shape, or form advocating for you to not talk to your people, because that's just stupid. But I advocate to try and find someone that will not blow smoke up your ass. Talk to someone that will be real with you. If you have friends that are real with you, you are doing the fucking thing, and I'm proud of you. But if you have friends that constantly say, "Oh no, sweetie, you're doing great, honey. You're doing wonderful. I'm gonna upload this to TikTok now and get views on how insane you are." Um, you might want to rethink your group of friends. Um, but these are real things. These are real things that happen in the communities that I am a part of. I have seen it happen, and it's really upsetting. It's really upsetting that people will go out of their way to basically say that your mental health is not a big deal. And if you feel something isn't right mentally, do something about it. Now, that an ableist thing to say? Yes. Yes, it is. But the longer you wait to acknowledge that something's wrong, the harder it is to admit that something's wrong. For me, because again, we'll talk about myself because it's a subject I know all too well. Um, when I was told by someone who shall remain nameless that I should seek out therapy, I was very much against it. But as I grew through my 20s, and I basically said to myself, something ain't right. Something is not, something's not clicking. Um, I basically said to myself, something, let's give it a shot. Let's try it. Let's let's put our best heels forward and give it a shot. Because I don't pay for my insurance, thank you, Obama. Because I am able to, because I'm poor, because I'm the poor, I'm able to have health insurance, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very, very thankful that I have health insurance. Because of that, I looked up therapists in my network. Um, there are free services that are available. There are free therapists that you can talk to and reach out to. And I strongly advise it. I really do. I was hesitant. I want to say I was hesitant with my therapist for the first 4 visits. And then by the fifth visit, I basically said, you know what? This is someone that I can trust. This is someone that I can talk to. And that's that word. That word trust is so, so important because it deals heavily with the topic that I'm addressing tonight. When it comes to narcissism, when it comes to victim mentality, you basically want to have somebody play there is a there's a spirit flying around. Um, you basically want to have somebody who's a neutral party in your life, and you want to have them not so much be in your corner, but you sort of want them to be someone that you can reach out to if you're having an off day. Someone you can reach out to if you're having a panic attack, an anxiety attack, if you have thoughts of suicide. These are the types of people that you can reach out to and have an open conversation with them, and they'll put you wise. There were a number of instances when I like would just say to myself, like, do I want to tell my therapist that? Should I write down what I should tell my therapist? Is it okay that I tell my therapist these things? And you just have to trust yourself. Trust your gut. Trusting your gut is so incredibly important. But also trusting your therapist and your psychiatrist also helpful. There was a very good friend of mine whom I lost contact with, but I tried. I tried to be there for them. I tried to do what I felt was the proper thing to do and be as good a friend to them as possible. A small budding romance happened, but that was quickly kiboshed because of reasons that I do not feel comfortable addressing. With this in mind, this friend was hooked. He wasn't. They were an addict. Well, he spilling a little sauce. He was addicted. He was an addict, and he moved. He moved to. He moved down south. He moved down south and he went to rehab and he did his thing. And then I found out 2 weeks ago that he passed away. Um, and it's really one of those jarring things where it's like, what could I have done? What is it that I could have? Don't do that. Don't don't do that to yourself because that will cause more problems than you can imagine. Um, it's unfortunate, and all I can suggest is that we advocate for rehabilitation centers to treat addicts and treat correctly. As a matter of fact, they're in what state? In one state that I can think of off the top of my head, I read an article because I read. I read, I listen, I pay attention, I try to do the right thing. Um, and I read that there was a rehabilitation center that used psychedelics and narcotics to treat addicts. Where the drugs are clean, they are sterile, and they will wean the addict off the teat. It is unfortunate that that did not happen to my friend. But all I can say is don't be the type of person to say, oh my God, this is about me. Oh, woe is me. Oh, poor me. Don't don't be that asshole. Please. Please do not be that asshole because that type of person is not somebody that I personally would want to associate myself with. And you need to realize that that's a reality. Victim mentality is very much a reality, where people will say, "Woe is me, poor me," um, and it's wrong. But you couple that with narcissism, and you couple that with I'm so sorry, and of course I don't have a bottle of water that I can drink out of because I'm stupid. Um, but you really have to you really have to understand um what it is that you can do for yourself to help yourself. Um and that's incredibly important. It's incredibly important to know the type of person that you are. It's incredibly important to know the type of people that you surround yourself with, especially in communities where you're in the spotlight. I mean, don't get me wrong, cosplay is a vast and large community. Drag is a vast and large community. There are vast and large communities, but as big as we think they are, that's also how tiny they are. So word travels fast. Word travels at the speed of light. So because of that, it's important to be self-aware. As a matter of fact, that was Chris's first comment. He said self-awareness 2020. And if anything can come out of this bungled year, I would like for it to be self-awareness. I would like for people to be okay admitting that they're not okay. I want people to admit that they, need to seek out some type of therapy to um help with their mental illness and help with their mental health. And that's vital. That's incredibly vital. If there is one piece of advice I can give for this year, it's just it's just remind yourself of who you are and remind yourself why you got into the things that you got into. Um, I can only do so much. I learned very slowly because you see, I'm a bit of a masochist. But I learned that you can't fix everyone's problems. It is not your responsibility to fix others. It is your responsibility to be a good person. It is your responsibility to take care of yourself and focus on your own happiness because, don't make helping people the reason that makes you happy because you're going to run into a lot of people who will happily, happily take advantage of you. And that's just bad. That's just bad. You don't want to be that type of person that's just like, oh, well, I'm doing this because this person wants me to. Never, never do that. Never put yourself out there for someone who. All right, I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. Um, the expression "do unto others as they do unto you" is, of course, very vital and very important. But when that relationship begins to become toxic, either because of narcissism or jealousy or any of the seven deadly sins, um, it's hard, but sever the ties. This year alone, I've blocked and deleted a number of people in the cosplay community that have been viewed as problematic, whom I have heard stories from, whom I have heard. Oh wow, we caboodles. There are comments. Shit. Um, I literally only just noticed that there were people commenting on this. I am tragically sorry. Um, uh, where the hell was I? Oh my god, I'm so sorry that I'm literally blanking on what the hell I was talking about. But yeah, let's go to the comments. Chris says people avoid therapy because they don't want to be told they're wrong under any circumstances. Yeah, they feel they're infallible. They feel that they are able to completely and totally ignore their toxic behavior and just say, "I'm fine. I'm okay." No, you're not, sweet cakes. No, you're no. No, you're not. Please do not think for a moment that you are. LaBelle says, hi, baby. Karen says, you want them to be someone that takes no sides to any party and have an open mind and understanding of just the words you give off. Someone that can give a true unknown viewpoint that you can't see for yourself. This is in reference to a therapist that you can reach out to and have a conversation with. Chris says, don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Set fire to the rain, not yourself. Dan says, seen negativity and such. How's it going, Tom? Oh, Dan, everything's going peachy keen, Jelly Bean. AJ says, hi, I miss you. Also, good points. Removing toxic people was one of the best things I did in 2020. AJ, my darling. Oh, hi, baby. I enjoy your workout videos more than I can describe. Um, Virginia says you were talking about cosplayers. So, one of the things that I love about having these conversations is that they happen everywhere. They happen in any community that you are a part of. They happen in drag, they happen in acting, they happen in theater, they happen in voice acting, they happen in television, they happen in the knitting group on Facebook, for Christ's sake. These conversations happen everywhere. And it's important to understand that this is a reality. There are people out there that are incredibly toxic. Now, for the longest time, oh my god, why is this so itchy? Like it's like I'm literally that one ant. You know that one ant that just puts her hand directly under her boob and like scratches the itch. That's me. I'm that ant. Um but yes, the reality is that these types of conversations do need to happen. Um that's what I was talking about. This year alone, I've deleted a number of people who were viewed as toxic. Whether I was told that they are racist, whether I was told that they are rapists, whether I was told that they um, did something insidious, and I said, "Well, they're not bringing me any joy. They are not doing anything personally for me to bring me or mine joy. So why am I going to keep them around?" Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that there are people, toxic, and people who are not toxic, who will monitor. This is something that intrigues the absolute shit out of me. Why are you monitoring somebody? That's my question. My question to you as an audience member, what is monitoring going to do? Um, Asshole's gonna asshole, shit talker's gonna shit talk. Why are you going to continue to listen to them and let them have a reason? Now, before I continue with this conversation, I understand people can be redeemed. People can do redeemable things. People can do. Thank you, Chris. He just said Maria Kondoing people, which just chef kiss. Um, why monitor? What is the point of monitoring other than to? Oh, nope. Scratch that, reverse it, flip that thing, and so on and so forth. Um, oh no, don't lose it, Tomcat. No, 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 don't leave me. Oh graciousness. Um, there are people that can be redeemed. There are people that can do, but that requires the person to look deep within themselves and say, huh, maybe my behavior is a bad thing and I should do something about it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to look inside oneself and say, I fucked up. It takes so much strength to do that. And when a person does that, great, phenomenal, fantastic. But don't think that the people that you've hurt are going to come back into your life that easily. It's not that easy. If you fucked up, if you hurt the wrong people, or if you hurt the right people, there's a very real possibility that they will not accept you back into their friend circle. And that's important to remember. There have been times when I have been graciously accepted back after mucking up a few times. This is not related to cosplay because in the cosplay community, I am a goddess, apparently. I speak fully of myself because, well, I'm insecure. That's why. Because I happen to be a perfect person. Um, Who is completely and totally imperfect. Uh, Karen says some people go to therapy because the person that hurt them should have been the ones that needed to go. I cannot tell you. One of the first things that I told my therapist was I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. These people, and I listed all of the people, most of them family. And I said these people should be in therapy. These people should be talking about their problems because I the reason why I have so many mental illnesses is because of the people that I live with. Um, most of you who follow me already know that. Most of you who follow me just know that. Um, but that could be said of anybody. That can literally be said of any person. One of the reasons why they have as many mental illnesses as they have is because of the people that they live with, whether it's roommates, whether it's family, whether it's close friends, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, friend. Just these things are universal. These mental illnesses are universal. And the best way to handle a mental illness is to talk to somebody about it. Where am I? Marie Kondoing people. Sometimes this is Dan Bouchong. Um, Sometimes I've found it's hard to remove some friends throughout life for their toxicity. I've never been a confrontational person, so it's extremely hard to do in person for me. That's completely, I feel like some people, this is Stephanie Stensland, I feel like some people monitor to get receipts, but still. Caitlin says it does. It takes not just strength, but almost a will to realize that you made a mistake and how to fix it within the mind. And AJ, my darling AJ, says honestly, some of the people that I removed fall under that category. I was like, you were good once, or I saw good, but man, I got tired of waiting. I'm just exhausted waiting for that change, and 2020 was just enough, was enough. Jessica says, I live with the one person in the world who needs therapy the most, refuses to admit they have an issue. Same. Um, with all of this in mind, I am not saying that the people who cause these problems are incapable of redemption. Anybody is capable of redeeming themselves. But again, they have to admit that they were wrong in the first place, which brings me to narcissism. One of the things about narcissism is that those people, as a matter of fact, I have a narcissistic personality disorder, a grandiose idea of who he is and what he, now mind you, this is what Google's telling me, gendered, so sorry, and what they think they can achieve. Often talks about their need to lead, to be in charge, or to exercise power. Requires and seeks excessive admiration from others. An infallible person with narcissistic personality disorder is just a big old mess. Because they see that they are doing absolutely nothing wrong with themselves. They are doing absolutely nothing wrong. Everything they do is just right. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works. With that said, if a person decides to redeem themselves, if a person decides to seek the help that they require, that's a different story entirely. But it ain't gonna be with my ass. It ain't gonna be with the asses of the people that you hurt. Um, there's an old Mae West quote that I love so much. It's about relationships, but I feel it's appropriate with friends too. Every man deserves a second chance with someone else. If you've been hurt by someone with narcissistic personality disorder, if you've been hurt by someone with victim mentality, if you've been hurt by someone who claims they are infallible, you don't owe them a second chance. You don't owe them that. There were a few friends of mine that I gave a number of chances to, and I was just like, well, I gave you all this rope and just you hung me with it. Nope, no more. Because then you realize just how bad things can get for you. And yes, some people do have to hit bottom before they realize just how awful they actually are. And that's a sad reality. It's a sad reality because it requires a person to, again, look deep within themselves. And a lot of people don't have the capacity to do that unless they've hit bottom. I know a few bottoms who could be spanked, but that's neither here nor there. Uh, Nadell, oh my darling Nadell, she always says such insightful things. Like I said before, actions speak louder than words. Mental illness is not an excuse for being an asshole. Same goes with depression. I believe people know when they do wrong to others. They just chose not to face it because they don't want to feel bad. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I have been there. I have been there. Um yeah, it is a reality. Um a former beau of mine was very similar to that. Where he I we're not going to get into my relationship. That's just absurd. Um Caitlin says, also, sorry this topic hits me personally, but also sometimes it actually hits the disorder. Sometimes with letting go, it causes the illness or disorder to trigger and it sends fear. For example, bipolar disorder, BPD, one of the symptoms is fear of abandonment. So said person will keep said toxic person around because their own fear and triggers. It becomes a cycle. One of the things that I've learned very quickly about 2020 is you have to break the cycle. You have to be the one to be strong enough. And I'm not saying that not doing this is weakness. Absolutely not. It takes a lot of strength to admit it, let alone do it. Um, but you have to be able to say, enough is enough. It's time to move forward with my life. It's time to move away from this toxicity. And I feel like that's a problem. I feel like that's a relationship that a lot of people have with the respective communities that they're in. Um, Jessica, they can also never admit they make mistakes. Infallibility, it happens. Oh, borderline personality disorder. I'm so sorry. Um, I saw BPD and I was like, wait, there's so many. I always feel like I'm getting bit by something. My legs are just that scrumptious. Um, but no. In reality, this is a very serious conversation that I wish more people had. I wish more people would go out and have these conversations on the regular. Because, having these, one of the things I love doing is having an open discussion with people, having an open discussion with friends, having an open discussion with people who identify as someone who has a mental illness, as somebody who has a mental illness, as someone who has a mental health affliction. Um, Keeping yourself open to listen. I cannot emphasize enough just how important listening is. Listening is it's the backbone of so many things. Because if you're not, and again, I am guilty. I am I am guilty. There was a very close friend of mine whom whenever we would have a conversation and they were telling me like everything that was going on, I was just like, uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I completely and totally understand. And it's wrong. It's wrong. My behavior towards that friend, reprehensible. Um, Listen to the people that you are conversating with. Listen to the people that you are involved with. It will only help the relationship. It will only help the friendship. It will only help the bond. Um, and being able to call out your friend, because let me tell you something, I was called out. Oh boy, did this friend call me out. And I was just like, I'm sorry. And I owned it. I owned it. I swallowed it. And I said, I'm sorry. I worked on myself and I took the necessary steps in order to be a better person. Sometimes it's hard, and I get that. Sometimes it is incredibly, incredibly challenging to admit that you were wrong, eat some crow, and, apologize. I wish that there was so I understand that there's DABDA, which is the 5 stages of grief. I wish that there was the 5 stages of acceptance or the 5 stages of growing to be a better person. Because I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And it'd be in dainty little pamphlets. dainty little pamphlets. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my hands. Um, but being being true to yourself, being true to the people that you are involved with, listening to them, conversating with them, showing that you care, showing that you're not going to let them down, um, is so important. It's so important. Nadell says, I wish more people would have this conversation too, but I've noticed way too many don't want to be bothered. So in that case, it's made me to be the one to close chapters with people. Even if it's painful, I'd rather suffer that pain in closing the chapter instead of letting the pain be ongoing with that person or group of people. Yes, yes. If you as an individual feel that you are being led on, being talked down to, being treated like you're less than, being treated like you're not as important as the other person's friends, say something about it. There was a Sahara Ha, or whatever that app was, that 2 3 years ago that blew up on Facebook, where people would send you anonymous messages. There was one person that sent me a message saying, I wish that no. There was one that said, "I wish that we were closer, but you always seem so popular and so what have you." That's not me talking up. That's literally what the person said. Um, there was another one that said, oh God, now why can't I think of it? But short story long, too late. It basically said that I am incapable of giving time to this person because of my popularity and because of who I am as a person. And that stung. That really stung. Like if a person is on my friends list on Facebook, if someone is a follower, if someone is a fan, I will do my best to reach out. I will do my best to have an open conversation because that's how you grow. That's how you network. Having these open discussions is so important to networking. Um, and it's just, I could go on about this for hours. Um, but in terms of narcissism and victim mentality, it's it's not your job to aid the victim mentality. It's not your job to say to the person, it's not your job to coddle. It's not your responsibility. It is the person's, it is the it is the victim's responsibility to know that there's a problem and know that they should do something about it. There is only so much you or I could do. You or I, right? We like that? You or I could do. There's only so much that we could do as people. There's only so much that we can do as people. My darling Billy Morris said that yeah, Sahara Ha was the most toxic thing ever. So glad that's not around anymore. I mean, there's still Tumblr. You could you can still send anonymous messages on Tumblr. Good old Tumblr. Um, but it's incredibly important to remember that your mental health is important too. Your mental well-being is important too. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people just haven't been focusing on a lot lately. I mean, granted, it's incredibly difficult given the state of things. But you are important as well. Um, there's again another old Mae West quote that I use on myself all the time. I've never been able to love another human being the way that I love myself. It's vain, it's prideful. I am vain and I am prideful. But it's incredibly important. It is so incredibly important to love yourself, and it is so incredibly important to put yourself first. So incredibly important to put yourself first. Like, yes, of course, put family first, put friends first, but never forget to say, "This is me. This is my body. This is the only person that I am going to be with through eternity." I mean, unless of course you believe in reincarnation. Um, But then you're only with this, shell and husk of a human form for a while, and then you jump into the next one, um, which I do believe. I do believe in reincarnation. I believe in a number of religions. Nadell asks, okay, explain this popularity shit to me. Why the fuck would anyone put their popularity over a human being they claim to be friends with? Saying they can't. Oh, Nadell. Oh, dear sweet Nadell. There is something called the Van Wilder effect. This was coined by my darling Lucky Grimm. Please, 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 please go and follow Lucky Grimm. They are an outstanding cosplayer. The outfits that they make are to die for. The Van Wilder effect is, and it asks the question, why do people who throw the best parties, who are the best looking, who do the best things, when they fuck up, why aren't they held accountable? Why aren't they held accountable? Why aren't these people? It's the Van Wilder effect. Because they are the best in parties, the best in cosplay, the best in. It's all about this elitist mentality. So because this person fits the criterion, they are not going to be judged. This was a conversation that me and Kristen had in an episode of Cat and Kristen, um, where we addressed this. Where we addressed this idea of popularity, where if a person's popular, they ain't gonna get shit on for doing the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Just because you are X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that should doesn't mean that it hides you from being held accountable. You should very much still be held accountable, regardless of popularity, regardless of follower count, regardless of anything. And grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. Um, please hold for the next available representative. AJ says mental health is super important, especially now. I learned the hard way to put the work in, and you are putting the work in beautifully, darling. Jessica Patricia puts a bunch of money signs. Well, yeah, because they are attractive, that's why they aren't held accountable, but that's not an excuse. Exactly. It's not an excuse, nor should it be considered one. Regardless of popularity, regardless of fame, regardless of anything, a person should be held accountable if they do something fucked up. If they've raped, if they've done blackface, if they are racist, if they are fascist, if they are any of these things, they should still be held accountable. No amount of money should be able to stand in the way of someone being held accountable for the atrocious things that they've been doing. I'm looking at you, government. Caitlin says, you put yourself first, but yes, family and friends are important. But just remember, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Keep the bonds that both well, okay then. Keep the bonds that both parties in the relationship. Okay. Keep the bonds of both parties in the relationship, regardless what relationship it is. You treat them how they treat you. Love how you want to be loved back. And then AJ says, I can't stand the elitist stuff. It irks my soul. I have stories about this. I'd love to hear them. Maybe we could have you on the show, AJ. I have no problem with that. Just don't flex or I'll wet myself. Having said that, and again, this is a rapport that I have built with AJ. AJ knows that I flirt. AJ sometimes flirts back. I love AJ's girlfriend. AJ's girlfriend is one of my favorite people. I do need to reach out to her actually now that I think about it. But it's just this idea that a person will not be held accountable because of money, because of looks, because of popularity, because of this, because of that. It's wrong. It's wrong. Couple that with victim mentality and narcissism, and it's a soup that just spells disaster. Um, Nadell says, personally, I'm sick of that shit. Grunty face, grunty face, grunty face, grunty face, grunty face. Like, Facebook can be erased, and then those thousands of ass kissers, white knights, and followers are all gone. I feel like so many popular people need to soul search and learn to separate themselves from the fantasy world and get back in touch with humanity. Yes. Now hold on to that for a moment. Hold on to that idea. Given the world that we are living in right now, some people are trapped in that world. They are trapped in that fantasy world because that's the closest thing to a home that they have. Knowing that they have Facebook, knowing that they have Instagram, knowing that I am very thankful. I am so thankful that I have Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all the social media apps because it gives me a view of the outside world. If I didn't have my phone to tell me the news, if I didn't have Yahoo, if I didn't have MSNBC, if I didn't have Reuters to tell me the news, I'd be learning it from ABC and Fox. I can tell you right now, that's not how you learn about the news. Being able to educate myself and being able to bring myself out of this fantasy world is one of the beautiful things about being a human. One of the things that I was so grateful for was that Eve ate that damn apple. Eat that damn apple, Eve. Eat the Eve apple. Eat the apple, Eve. She says like, "Hi, baby. I love you. I love you so much. I can't wait to hug you and your boyfriend." Nadell says people's definition is severely warped, unfortunately. One cannot love people if they focus on the wrong things like materials and popularity. It's true. It's true. 100% true. I have made it a point in a number of situations to check myself. To check myself and to look within myself to say, is what I'm doing wrong? Am I hurting somebody in doing this? Great example. I'll give you a fabulous example. There's a friend, so two friends. There was a shitty transaction that happened, moving right along. One person reached out to me for a photo shoot, and then I was like, okay, this person has done nothing wrong by me, but has done wrong by somebody I care about and I cherish. So there's two ways to do this. Block the person entirely and move on, or have a conversation with the person that was hurt and say, hey, this is what's going on. How do you feel about it? If you have good communication skills, and if you have the ability to communicate to the person that this all happened to, or just in general, if you have the ability to communicate properly, if you have the ability to communicate, you can have that discussion. You can have that open discussion and come to a conclusion as a team. And that's trust building skills. And that's how you retain friends. That's how you make friends. La-di-da. Nadell says people's definition of love is severely warped. Yeah, it is. Billy says if more people learn from their mistakes in this day and age, less would have to be held accountable. What's unfortunate is that there's too much arrogance and stubbornness that shrouds their very well-being. It's pride. It's pride. It is 100% pride. Pride goeth before the fall. And considering it is the fall today, I think happy Mabon. I think that's what it's called. Mabon? I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Gianna says the lying and narcissistic behavior is what gets me irked. It gives real victims a huge burden of proof in the future. Like Jesus, just own up to shit. I don't see why that's such a huge problem with people. Just put the ego aside. See, it's one thing to say put the ego aside. It's an entirely different matter to do it. It's one of those things that's easier said than done. Because there are people that are just so prideful and so arrogant and so stubborn, as Billy had mentioned, that they just won't listen to reason. They won't listen to reason. And it becomes a humongous problem. Um, it becomes a humongous problem when you try. It becomes a humongous problem when you try to have this discussion and have this open dialogue with somebody. Um, for instance, recently, and again, I'll use myself as an example because that seems to be what I'm very good at doing, darlings. Um, there was a friend that I had removed 2-ish, 3 years ago. Um, and then this year, I found out that one of the reasons why I had removed that friend was because of another friend who was, I thought, someone I was very close to. And then I found out that there was a lot of shit being talked about me, so I was just like, all right, we're done here. But then I said to myself, there's another friend that I completely and totally wrote off because of this one friend who was talking shit. So I added the person back, had a conversation with him, and apologized profusely. I owned that I messed up. I owned that there was something that I did that was wrong by said person. Um, and again, it comes down to being able to look within inside yourself and say, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't the person that I am. For the longest time I kept on saying, like, get back to remembering why you got into cosplay, why you got into drag, why you got into acting, why you got into theater, why you got into any of these communities. Think back to why you got into it. And then ask yourself, how did I get here? It's called staying humble. I love to brag. I love to be narcissistic. I love to be um full of myself. But that's a character. That's a character. My character is very much, I've nailed it down. Very much like a 1980s businesswoman crossed with B. Arthur, crossed with a sexy, sinful 1930s femme fatale. Just mix that together, and that's me. Um, I try to stay humble. I try to say to myself, what am I doing that's right? What am I doing that's wrong? And it's hard. It's very hard to, differentiate those types of patterns. And it's very hard to break those patterns. But you do it because you grow and you learn and you educate and you listen and you communicate and you trust. And that's so important. That is so tragically important. Going to the comments. My darling Linz says big part of owning one's actions, not blaming other people or circumstances. And yes, I understand that there are people who are mentally unwell. I understand that there are people who have mental health problems. That isn't an excuse to be an asshole. That isn't an excuse to be a burden to other people. That's on you. It's on you to. Now, of course, we're going to get into the conversation of, well, the doctor didn't diagnose me correctly. There's a whole conversation in and of that. But the important thing to remember is that if there's a comedian on Netflix who did a special called Nanette. And then in her following special, she opens the show with, I have autism. Because there were people that came up to her after her first show, and I can't for the life of me, but Nanette, look up Nanette on Netflix. You will not be disappointed. There were people that would come up to her after her specials or after her shows and say, hey, do you also have autism? And it was really one of those things where I'm like, I didn't know you could actually go up to somebody and ask that. Because the people assumed and understood that the patterns that this person was displaying were textbook autism. So they had the conversation with them. Being able to openly discuss mental illness and mental health is so important, and it is so wonderful. Because then if you If you talk to somebody, they can say, great, I can send you to this resource. I can send you to this therapist. This person does it for free. This person does pro bono work. This one, you don't have to, you pay what you can. And it opens the door. It opens the door and it opens your mind to all of these new possibilities for you to see yourself. Because, there's, seeing yourself, and then there's seeing yourself. Sorry, I kind of went for him. That was a mighty big moment for me. Where am I? Oh my goodness, so many comments. Nadell says playing dress up is fun, but drama is not. We are all grown-ups who dress up like the kids do on Halloween on a daily basis for a number of reasons and claim this community is about love, diversity, acceptance, yet so many people have been ignored, abused, harassed, all the god-awful things I'm sure everyone here has a story for. Grown adults have done this, and all for popularity or, generally speaking, selfish reasons. And I did completely and totally for the fame, the glamour, and the fortune, darling. Actually, no, I got into cosplay because I just wanted to dress up and be pretty. Have done all for popularity. Many are locked in the fantasy. Worse so, many don't act against that bad behavior. I feel like if people were able to see the bigger picture and call out toxic friends who are being severely toxic and actually walk away from them, if many did this, if there were true consequences for such shitty actions, then maybe things would be different. Yes. AJ says, my issue with the cosplay community was always, why does this thing that is so freeing and creative have a community that reminds me of high school? That's plays. Billy says to AJ, because none of them have matured yet. It's true. It's true. Lynn says, people grow and change, but the hurt they cause doesn't. I hate when people say, oh, okay, but I've done so much self-work. Okay, that's great, but acknowledge what you have done. Apologize if you feel sorry, and then we can move on. Self-work involves accountability completely. And there are so many people out there that choose not to hold themselves accountable because they feel they've done nothing wrong. And that's where the problems arise. Pete says, I'm an outsider, but from behind the table, I have seen some shit. Baby, we all have. We've all seen some nonsense. The stories we could tell, the stories these lips could tell. Lynn says, but there is also a lot of enablers within the community who don't call out those toxic individuals. It's so shitty because those enablers don't help anyone. See, and this is such a big problem. This is something that I myself am guilty of. When you find out that somebody is toxic, you don't call them out because we're canceling cancel culture. And what? If somebody is doing something wrong, they should be called out on it. Now, when it comes to calling somebody out, there's always going to be a margin of error. There's always going to be some yo-yo, some person who's going to say, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Make me believe you. And that's part of the problem. Most of the reasons why people don't call out other people is because they feel they're going to be attacked for calling a person out. And it's wrong. It's wrong. I'm sorry. When Brett Kavanaugh was called out for doing what he did to his victim, whose name is escaping me, but I'm sure Facebook will tell me who that person was. When all of that came out, no one believed her. Only a select few did, and now he's on the Supreme Court of the United States. So we're going to dumb that down, or I don't want to say dumb that down, but bring it down to the world of cosplay, the world of drag, the world of theater, the world of any community. If one person doesn't believe you, that is a seed of doubt that has been planted. And I tell you, that seed of doubt can bloom into the most pretty tree. And it's really quite problematic because it's because of that seed of doubt that nobody says anything. Because, of course, people say, oh, well, there was this one case where the person lied about being raped. That's one time. That's one time. It's unfortunate that the innocent until proven guilty clause has helped many a problematic person. That has helped many an awful human being. But yeah, when it comes to black people, it's guilty until proven innocent. Why is that? It's racism. It is systemic racism. There are an awful lot of comments. Gianna says, exactly, replying to Lynn's, exactly, it sucks when people don't want to acknowledge the wrong they did. LaBelle says, honestly, when you get out of high school, nothing ever actually changes. It's true. The thing that does is that hopefully you've changed to not be able to accept the BS that the world gives you. Easy. It is one of those things that's easier said than done, unfortunately. Nadell replying to AJ says, because so many are still childish and have a high school mindset. Nobody got properly corrected for that behavior, and a lot of that bad behavior is rewarded for a time if you look at popular cosplayers who have done bad things like sexually harass other cosplayers or got away with bullying because they were physically hot. Also, too many are cowards and incredibly selfish. My God almighty, I am just so itchy. Lane says, calling out doesn't quite require a huge Facebook post or anything like that. It involves not listening to rumors they're spreading, advocating for the person they're targeting, telling the toxic individual that they're being toxic, etc. True. You are 100% correct, Linz. You are absolutely correct. A lot of it really can be brought down to that level, where if something comes up where you are being talked about or somebody is talking about you, you have every opportunity and every option to say, that's not true. Alternatively, when it comes to other individuals, they, of course, have the option to say, I don't believe that. I'm not going to listen to that. That's wonderful. That's not what I've seen happen, however. And that's kind of one of the things that like really gives me pause when it comes to this community. Because there are people that will continue to make excuses for the behavior of somebody who has done something tragic. And that is the big problem here. The big problem isn't in ignoring, tuning out, blocking. It's addressing the issue directly with the person. I've done it. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've spoken to people who I've heard rumors about, and I'm like, hey, listen, this is what's being talked about when it comes to you. I'm sorry that I'm the asshole that has to do that, because of course I can't keep my nose out of other people's business. That's just a thing that I do. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I want to address this with you just so that you're aware. No malice, no ill intent, just, hey, this is what's happening and I feel you should know about it. It's one of those things where it's like, don't shoot the messenger. Pete says, whatever community you're in, you have to police your own community. Yes, that is correct. That is 100% correct. You do have to police your community in some way, shape, or form. I did that for a brief period of time, and then I'm like, no, not for me. If someone is doing something wrong and hurting people in your community, this is still Pete's comment. If someone is doing something wrong and hurting people in your community, call them out. There's a way and a degree to do it. Get some facts and make it happen. If not, get me and I'll bash their faces in. Oh, Pete, you marshmallow of a man. Um, Karen to Lynn's, from what I've seen, some are afraid or have been manipulated by the toxic persons. Otherwise, like Tom just said, some just don't believe no matter how many facts you give them all because probably, well, they don't do that with me. And that is the sick, sad reality of this conversation. There are people that will be thrown facts, will be told so many things wrong with this one person. Well, they weren't that way with me. And I cannot emphasize the importance of this statement. Just because it isn't happening to you doesn't mean it isn't happening to someone else. Please engrave that on something, tattoo it on your asses. It is so important to remember that because it is that quote that basically should wake people up and say, you're right. Just because it isn't happening to me doesn't mean it's not happening. I'm on unemployment. I know a bunch of other people who are on unemployment, but my family isn't. But they don't get it. They don't get it because it's not happening to them. When it finally does happen to them, show sympathy, show empathy. And that's something that I really have a problem with. Me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but me personally, I always have a problem addressing another person's plight, especially when they were so shitty from the jump. Um let's say for instance, pulling rabbits out of my hat. There's a friend that you have that you know has a history, and you are told time after time after time that they are the worst, they are awful, you should keep them at a distance. Then something tragic happens to them. What do you do? Do you show empathy? Do you show sympathy? If they're your friend, yes. If they're somebody that you may or may not believe, you may come out and say, well, that's not happening to them. That's not real. That doesn't exist. There's a level of empathy and a level of sympathy that people need to have in order to, respect what's going on with the other person. Now, again, if somebody is going to go out of their way to be a dick, if someone is going to go out of their way to be an asshole, then karma will do its job. That's my name, Karma. Actually, no, that's Karma Chaos's name. Fabulous drag queen. Go and follow them. No. If a person knowingly has done something shitty, you have every right to address them physically and say, why would you do that? Why would you do it? What purpose does that serve? You have every right to do that. The problem is, they have every reason to not listen to you. Because if they're already going to be doing the shitty thing, you talking to them ain't gonna stop them. And that's the reality. That is the reality. A lot of comments. Let me reread Karen's. From what I've no, I think I already read that one. Nope. Moving right along to Nadell's comment. I've also noticed that when sex is involved, well, that's a whole other can of fish. As long as a cosplayer is getting their dick or pussy wet, then it's a mindset of who cares if the venue or hosts of said sexual venue are toxic. Plus the numbers game. Like I said, this is me. This is like I said, like Tom said. There will be the one or several who won't believe, and even with proof that can be tampered with, and the person blowing the whistle can be demonized. Yup. Lynn's replying to Karen says, oh yeah, completely. I think we've all fallen victim to a toxic person's manipulation at one point or another, but I believe there's a lot of people who, as Tom said, write off others without really talking to them because of what one person says. And it's true. It's completely and totally true. I've reached out to people that I was informed were bad people, and I've hit them up saying, hey, how have you been? Hope all's well. I've done that for years, where I will check up on people just because that's the type of person that I am, because I want to make sure that people are okay. And I will make sure that people are okay with a joke, a laugh, a witty quip. And that's just who I am as a person. And there are some people that will look at that as clout chasing. And there are some people that will look at that as problematic because I'm putting my nose in where it sometimes doesn't belong. And if that's the case, well, then guilty is fucking charged. I, I've been in several communities for a number of years, and I open myself up freely. I will check up on people. I will make sure that people are okay. And I feel like kindness goes such a long way. Kindness goes such a long way. Kindness is the cure for um victim mentality. Kindness is the cure for narcissistic personality disorder. Kindness is the cure for certain types of mental illnesses. You don't know what a person's going through. Regardless, then now playing the advocate's devil. And I completely and totally forgot what I was gonna say. um yep, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. And then suddenly two words pass through my mind: Alzheimer's disease. Linz says, replying to Karen, keep in mind I'm speaking on more interpersonal petty shit, not SA or anything ultra serious, not sexual assault or anything ultra serious that where we should believe victims out the gate. Pete, you gotta be careful when you start to run into an angry mob, though. Gotta get your facts and consider people involved before you hashtag RIP something or someone. It's true. It's true. Billy replying to Linz, the only concern in that regard is knowing what really determines the truth from rumors being spread and not being misled to disbelief. Yep. Oh my goodness, there are so many comments. I'm sorry that I'm unable to get to all of them in a timely fashion. I guess it's because I like to hear the sound of my own voice. Billy replying to Linz, the only concern in that regard is knowing what really determines the truth from rumors being spread and not being misled to disbelief. Yes, read that. Nadell replying to Pete, they ain't worth jail time. Trust me, having a bigger bark is better than the bite. Yes. You'll put the fear of God in them, and the toxic ones who do bad will feel it, even if they decide to repeat their fuckery. Repeating is the worst case scenario, but if you correct them right, they can stop. It's a question of how to correct them. LaBelle says, in light of the civil rights movement that we are still going through, as a person of color, that's what I keep saying to a lot of people. Just because it isn't happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening. And if someone is telling you so, believe them. Yep. That part. Linz replying to Billy, unless I know for certain that something was said or done, unless in extreme circumstances, I won't go to people who don't know something and spread that rumor I was told. Again, unless in extreme cases like SA, racism, harassment, etc., where someone's safety is potentially at stake. Yes. Gianna replying to Linz, unfortunately, some of the time you have to dig for answers or else false information can be spread, even if that means finding out all information from parties involved. Yes. Yep. You're all agreeing. Thank God. Linz replying to Gianna, discussing the rumor with the individuals involved to fact check is different from spreading a rumor. Correct. The rumor mill is one of the most fascinating things about any community. If ever there was a rumor spread about me, I only wish that it was that I was shot by a jealous wife. But that's just me. It is, oh my God, it's one thing. We've been at this for an hour and 13 minutes, kids. I say this. Always remember to be kind. I'm sort of reclaiming that from Ellen because Ellen no longer speaks for the entirety of the LGBTQ community. Not that I'm saying that I do, but it's important to remember to be kind. Kindness is one of those lost arts, and it's so important. Kindness is so important to have. But there's also an expression, something, take no shit. And I saw it all last week. Saw it all last week, but remember to be kind. Remember to have open communication with people that you trust. Remember to take care of yourself. Remember to find gratuity. You know, there's so much bad going on in this world and so much bad going on in this world that I think people forget to be grateful that they are able to wake up in the morning. Um, and I know that that is an incredibly ableist thing to say. Is no, I'm sorry, not ableist, privileged. That's an incredibly privileged thing to say because there are some people that will wake up and not be in the greatest of conditions. Let me tell you something. Scrolling through TikTok, my heart breaks for the amount of heartbreaking stories that I have seen and heard. I've heard about people getting excommunicated from their family. I've heard of people getting chided for being in a domestic dispute, rape. I've heard all of these just negative, nasty things. And then I look at the comment section and I'm like, all right, there are people gassing them up. There are people doing right and like saying yes, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be great, you're gonna be wonderful. But then of course you're gonna have the assholes that are like, oh well, you deserve it. You deserve it. So one thing that I want everyone to take away from this episode, there is always, always going to be the assholes. There's always going to be the assholes. And unfortunately, it is not up to me to say, hey, don't be an asshole. It's unfortunately up to you to either rise above it and say, you know something? You're right. It was my fault. But at least I can acknowledge that, accept it, and move on from it. Whereas you will still be sad, commenting on people's plights. Um, Billy said that he was out. I don't know where that comment went. He said, I'm on my way out. Nadell says, I've cursed a stalker and foot fetisher in person for stalking my friend a few years ago when we were at an outside cosplay event. I don't like going that route, but since that stalker enjoyed harassing underage girls for feet pictures, I wonder who this person is. I wonder if I know them. And wouldn't leave my bro alone. And he didn't want to resort to throwing hands, and I don't have a reputation of popularity. I didn't hesitate to chew his ass out, and he has left my friend alone since. And that's great. You're, just to bring it back home, you're always going to meet these assholes. You're always going to run into them. Whether they don't agree with you politically, whether they don't believe your story, whether they feel that they are right in any semblance, you have to just let them go. You have to, you know what? If you're going to talk to me like this, I can't be bothered by you anymore. It's hard. Letting go and deleting somebody, blocking somebody, even responding to the comment is some of the most difficult things to do, especially for someone who already has anxiety, depression, and a number of other mental illnesses. It's incredibly difficult. So if you're able to do that, God bless you. Praise be unto you, because it is the single most difficult thing to do ever. Um, but sometimes you have to do it for the betterment of your own sanity. Um, I want to read Lindsay's comment and then I'm gonna pack this baby up. I just wish people were more straightforward in this community. I'm so tired of the rumors based in petty shit. I'm tired of the I have so much clout so I can do no wrong mentality. I'm tired of people not speaking up. I do, but I'm also known as an asshole. I'm tired of the victim mentality. I'm just friggin' tired and need a nap. And on that note, friends, I want you to know that I love you. I want you to know that you are doing the damn thing. You are surviving. You are doing your best during probably one of the most horrendous times in all of our lives. I want everyone to keep on fighting. I want everyone to keep on keeping on. I want everyone to keep on doing their thing, and I want everyone to keep on educating themselves and understanding themselves. And figuring out who they are as a person, whether that's in figuring out a new gender for yourself, figuring out a sexuality, figuring out a new way of thinking about things, just figuring out all of these things. And unfortunately, it fine, I'll read them. You've twisted my arm. LaBelle says, also remember that your app these groups of what you make of these groups what you make of them. What you put into them is what you get out. Also, they all have a block button. Use it when you see fit. Yes. And Nadell says, honesty is always the best policy, but if some don't want to be at least I'm so sorry, Nadell. But if some don't want to be, at least you can see through them and know how to deal with them from there. Gianna says it truly is. I've had to do it more times in the past 5 years than ever before, and I'm thankful that I did. And I'm thankful that people are continuing to grow and educate and learn and listen and communicate. Vital. These things are so important to the survival. It's so important to our survival. Being able to communicate and network and become friends with so many people is so, so, so important. I love you all. I do. I love and kisses to you all. I can't wait to the next time I get to see you and give you the world's biggest hug. Yeah, I'm thankful for you all for going on this journey with me, and I will see you next week. If you would like to follow me, you can at that Tomcat on all forms of social media. You'll know this already. You'll know the jag. And it's Tomcat on TikTok. And I'm thinking of changing my name from that Tomcat to it's Tomcat. We'll see what happens. But I will see you all next week for another episode of Catt Chat. Ciao me out for now, guys.